There are multiple people who took on the mantle of Robin, but Tim Drake was the greatest detective out of all of them. Join me on day 12 of my Superhero Pride Month challenge, and let's talk nerdy about the master detective, Tim Drake, aka Robin. Making his first appearance in the comics in Batman issue number 436, Tim Drake was naturally intuitive as a child. He was there the night that the Flying Graysons, the family of the first Robin, Dick Grayson, were killed. And then that same night he saw Batman and Dick Grayson in action. He then noticed that the first Robin started appearing right around the same time that Bruce Wayne officially took on Dick Grayson as his ward. Tim also noticed that Robin did the same acrobatic moves that Dick Grayson would perform in the circus. With those clues, Tim Drake was able to put together that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson were actually Batman and Robin. But he kept the secret to himself and followed their careers very closely. But at this point in time, Dick Grayson had left Batman behind to go off and become Nightwing, and then the second Robin, Jason Todd, was killed by the Joker. But after Jason's death, Tim was worried about Batman's personality change. He was starting to act more brutal towards criminals, and that's when Tim realized that Batman needs a Robin. So he reached out to Dick Grayson and tried to convince him to go back to Batman to become Robin again. But this leads to both Batman and Nightwing both nearly being killed by Two-Face, who causes a building to explode and collapse on top of them. So Tim Drake takes it upon himself to beat up Two-Face and rescue Batman and Nightwing. And it's right there and then that Batman agrees to train Tim, making him the third Robin. Being trained by Batman has given Tim Drake peak human condition, and also making him an expert in acrobatics, martial arts, and his weapon of choice is a bow staff. Tim Drake also has a variety of gadgets like his grapple hook and a variety of other Batman shenanigans. But what sets Tim Drake apart from the other Robins is his genius level intellect, because out of all of the Robins, Tim Drake is the most analytical. And there's a belief among the comic book community that Tim Drake is really the world's greatest detective, or at the very least on par with Batman. But even Batman himself has admitted that Tim Drake might be a better detective than he is. Tim Drake can also come up with plans and strategies during stressful situations almost immediately. He does not fold under pressure. Tim Drake would be Robin for years, earning the reputation as one of the world's greatest detectives. He became a founding member of the Young Justice team, and he later joined a new version of the Teen Titans. And eventually, Tim Drake would leave Batman to become his own hero, calling himself Red Robin. Yum. No, I'm serious. He's called Red Robin. But now let's talk about Tim Drake's love life, because I love love and I love to talk about it. So Tim Drake is bisexual in the comics, and his most notable relationships include the likes of Stephanie Brown, aka Spoiler or Batgirl, and the two of them both trained under Batman to be vigilantes, and it started off as like, teenage flirting between the two, but eventually it spouted into a full-blown relationship. And this was the longest relationship that Tim Drake had in the comics. But eventually he would break up with Stephanie and start dating his old high school best friend, Bernard Dowd. Now, when they knew each other in high school, Bernard was a huge fan of Robin, who just so happened to be Tim Drake at the time. And when they reunited after high school, it was around the time where they were both struggling with their sexuality, but they started dating. And at the time of this recording, Tim Drake and Bernard are still dating, and I love that for them because they're just so adorable. But now's the time for you to leave your answer in the comments below to this random question. What subject in school would you have Tim Drake tutor you in? For me, it would be math. That was always my weakest subject. And I remember growing up as a kid, my biggest dream was to be a scientist. But you have to be good at math to be a scientist, so I had to give that dream up. Tim Drake, help me be a scientist. But what do you think of Tim Drake's Robin? Is he on your favorite superhero character list? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, go ahead and hit the like button, and then be on the lookout for tomorrow's video where we talk about America Chavez. And if you missed yesterday's video where we talked about Black Cat, go ahead and click on the box right here, and I'll see you in a bit.